Hi, I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Amy, and welcome to Escaping Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory. Are you ready for this?
No.
I don't think you're ready for this. We are on Season 2, Episode 22, the last episode of the season. All Hell Breaks Loose Part 2. And I was not prepared. I don't think I'm ever going to be prepared for that gosh darn song. Ever.
I just need to describe the kind of visceral reaction I have to Kansas. I kind of hear it. I have to sort of close my eyes for a second and just be like, no, I don't want this.
Yeah, and reading those words, the road so far, it's just like, oh my goodness, this is. Can you not? Like, I don't think I've ever reacted to a song that badly consistently ever.
No, I don't think so either. So, okay, we're in our 30s now. Okay, early 30s. All right, fine. It's not right or proper for a grown woman to have that kind of visceral reaction to a song in a shop.
No, not at all.
It's not full breakdown mode. I can keep it in. I can keep it down. I can repress it. It's sort of I don't know, your whole body kind of
shuts down.
It's trying to repel it.
So I've never gotten married, so I don't have a wedding song or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fairly certain there's songs that I listen to in a relationship that might have that reaction, but it annoys me more than it makes me upset.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just but yeah, there's no song out there that as soon as those vocals hit, you just stop. You just kind of la 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 la.
Yeah. I agree with you. I don't think there's any song that I have this reaction to, and it is very a physical reaction. It's not just oh no, this song has an emotional meaning for me. It's just no, make it stop, turn it off, please. I can't listen to it.
All that to say is that we have a whole season recap of essentially I feel like the first 30 seconds is just them shooting guns at things.
It's so true.
I mean, they did a really good job with syncing it up with some of the double taps are synced with the song, which is really great.
I noticed that we are very much procrastinating from talking about this episode. I can feel that because neither of us want to talk about it.
Because it's horrible.
Okay, so this episode was obviously directed by Kim Manners and written by Michael T. Moore, but I feel like Kripke probably wrote most of this. I feel it.
And it got a 9.5, which I think is fair. This was pretty good. Though, it had that kind of feel of there's something about two-parters which the pacing of the two never seems to work. I think to Mockingjay for the Hunger Games series or Deathly Hallows. The first one, the last episode was pretty good. It had some good elements, but it was pretty slow overall. And then this one felt really, really fast.
Yeah, they establish a lot of things very quickly. It's oh, this has happened, then this, so we have to go do this now. Okay, end of episode. It is quite rushed, I agree. They fit a lot of story elements into this, whereas the last one was just building up to that. But there were things brought in that had never been mentioned really before, and I feel like they could have done a bit more setup on it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that.
Yeah, definitely. They haven't left the town, right? That was my impression, that they were still in the little town of Cold Oak.
Yeah, Cold Oak.
Whatever it was.
Yeah.
And Sam is on a mattress, just sort of dead. Simply as. With Dean sort of watching over him. Bobby's trying to, like, coerce him to, like, eat something, or, you know, they got to do something. They can't just sit here and do nothing. And this was really tough to watch.
Yeah.
It was so, like, it was at this point, I didn't notice who was directing, but this scene was like, oh yeah, it's Kim Manners, because it's like right up in Dean's face, right up in Bobby's face, and like anyway, yeah, that was the point where I was just like, oh yeah, okay, this is yeah.
I think, I don't know, I watched this episode in the middle of the day, which was a mistake because it was extremely dark the whole episode, apart from one scene, which we'll talk about in a minute. And it's very, I appreciate how they framed it, because like when Bobby comes in, he stood almost shoulder to shoulder with Dean. It's almost quite claustrophobic, like you can feel Dean like in his feelings kind of thing, almost kind of trapped in that room. I don't think he can see himself walking out of there without Sam, if that makes sense.
Definitely.
So I really appreciated that. The fact that Bobby comes in and he's being so, like, father figure. But I get the sense from Bobby in this scene that he wants to be a father figure to Sam and Dean, but doesn't feel like he has the right. Because, like, as he's offering Dean things, it's all very, like, he's obviously he's not sure what to do, like, what to do about the situation. But he sort of almost, like, acquiesces to him quite easily as well. The biggest mistake I feel that Bobby ever made is in this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, this next, like, little conversation, like, so Bobby suggests that it's time to bury Sam, or, like, he doesn't want to say it, but Dean continues his sentence, burn him, like, do a hunter's funeral. Like I said, Dean is refusing to leave. So Bobby he's trying to kind of make Dean feel useful by saying that, like, you know, I don't want you to be alone and I need your help. So you need to come with me. Dean is still refusing, and then Bobby says, well, there's something big coming, like end of the world big. And then this is the line that's been so difficult to get to, which is why we were procrastinating. Well, for me anyway.
Something big is going down. End of the world big. Well, then let it end!
I know we gush about Jensen all the time. But I felt that in my soul.
Yeah.
Like that, after he said that, I had to pause it and just, like, take a moment, because I was like, man, this character is hurting so bad. And obviously we know why, but, like, and it also gets explained a little bit why in this episode, but it's like, I can't imagine what that feels like.
It's tough, and I do think the reason that Dean's such a sympathetic character sometimes is that often people have situations in their lives that can relate to this, where it does, you know, you've lost something or someone, and it's like, well, nothing else in this world really matters at this point, you know. It all seems, things very much zoom into your own sort of, like, what's going on in your own personal bubble, and, like, nothing else matters. And that's completely how grief is sometimes, I guess. I mean, there have been instances, I think, that I've definitely felt that way, and usually it's something very personal that's going on with, like, family or whatever. And I think that's why he's related to on so many levels, because he's such a human character. I've never really seen in TV, I don't think, another character grieve like this. Does that make sense? It's usually very dramatic, and I know this is dramatic, but it's also relatable. I'm not saying it right, but I hope people know what I mean.
I think I know what you mean. It's dramatic, but not overly so. In that, like, it almost feels like a real reaction to something rather than just someone acting.
Yeah.
Which is really, again, really weird to say. But it feels true. It does feel true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, you know, Bobby's trying to tell him that, oh, no, you don't really feel that way. Which I know at this point, we don't, as an audience, we don't know what the relationship is between Bobby and Sam and Dean here.
Yeah, not really.
We're starting to see that it's implied that he's more important than originally let on.
Mm-hmm.
But from someone, you know, from people who've actually seen, you know, how much of an influence he's had on their lives, this line makes more sense on a rewatch. Saying, like, because Bobby tells him, "Oh, you don't mean that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas I feel like watching it for the first time, that line kind of seems a little off because he doesn't seem like he knows the brothers.
Yeah, you're completely right. Actually, this is more impactful on a rewatch because we know who Bobby is to them. Actually, you know, Dean kind of has a speech here where he says,
"You don't think I've given enough? You don't think I've paid enough? I'm done with it. All of it. If you know what's good for you, turn around, get the hell out of here."
And it mirrors what was in What Is and What Should Never Be. I know I said in that episode, I was like, well, why was this here? Why was this now? Like, why was 220 where it is in the season? But I'm like, oh my gosh, it actually makes complete sense why it's there, because it was leading to this, right?
Definitely. And so, you know, Bobby is trying to say, like, no, you don't mean it. And then Dean shoves him and yells. And it, at that point, it does very much feel like a child talking to a parent.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I'm fairly certain I did something like this to my mum, at least.
Yeah.
I don't think I physically pushed her, but I definitely yelled at her to, like, leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, this is where the, like, familial sort of structure is starting.
Yeah.
As people, I think we relate that kind of action. Like, Dean's "I'm sorry," like, whisper after that. Oh, there was just too much. This is the first scene coming up with this horrendous song.
Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't. I couldn't. It was too much. It was too much of a hill to, like, sit through.
The thing is, when Dean's angry at people like this and he's physically pushing them away and emotionally pushing them away, always I feel you can hear in his character, like, no, please stay. Like, please stay with me and help me. Like, it's so obviously there in the subtext, and him saying, like, immediately sort of regretting shouting at Bobby and saying, like, you know, please just go. Yeah, I think that it's a lot.
I guess we were kind of alluding to it, that, like, by Bobby saying that, like, you need to give up Sam because there's something bigger happening, is the start of, like, it's the continuation of having to sacrifice for the world.
Yeah, exactly.
I wrote here it was Bobby who brought him back to hunting, because I honestly think that had Bobby not said, I don't know, actually, at the point of this episode, like, even though we're the first scene in, and it's like nothing else, no other context, it felt like Dean could have stopped hunting at that point. Like, had he not felt the drive to do what he was about to do, he probably, I feel, would have. And had Bobby not said that, you know, there's more to come, and, like, world ending to come, I feel like he would have quit right there and then.
I can see that, actually, if he hadn't done what he does in this episode. He probably would have become that drifter loser that Eric Kripke always wanted him to be, apparently.
Right.
I can see it. You know, it would have been tough. I think Bobby leaving when Dean asks him to, as saying, like, this is the biggest mistake that Bobby ever made, and I'm thinking, like, I think this is it. Like, I think, I think leaving Dean here, I don't think it's Bobby's fault. I don't think he feels he has the right to stay, because they haven't really fallen into yet that kind of father-son relationship where Bobby feels he has the authority to stay. If he hadn't gone, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's after what happens in this episode that I feel like he's now like, okay, they need a father figure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And takes up that mantle. Yeah, you're right. Had he not left, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I think Dean would have found a way.
You're probably right, actually, to be fair. I don't know. It's really tough to say. I think you're right. The thing is, it's tough, right? Because you can't imagine either of them without the other. I don't think. So we were saying, like, if he hadn't gone back to, if he hadn't got Sam back here, he would have just gone off. But actually, he would have always found a way to bring him back somehow. That's their problem. That's their main problem. Is the obsession.
The obsession, the secrets, and like self-loathing. Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. Yeah. All right. So since it took us like 30 minutes to get through that one scene, let's carry on. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. It gets a little easier after this for a while. So yeah. So we're in the woods and we see Jake. He's sat at a campfire and he's trying not to fall asleep, which he fails because Yellow Eyes comes to see him. He makes a lot of reality TV jokes.
Well, congratulations, Jake. You're it. Last man standing. The American Idol.
Wait, is he the comic relief in this episode?
Oh my god. Yeah. Why is the demon the comic relief? No.
That should not be a thing. But apparently it is. Mm-hmm. Yellow Eyes is not 100%, he's not thrilled that it was Jake that won his little competition. Okay, my question. Is he the last child of the demon? No, he's not. He's not the last child because we saw it in season 1.
Yeah.
End of season 1, he was at another baby's crib.
So he mentioned, didn't he, about there being other generations. And I feel like demons have a lot of time, right? Yeah. So maybe this is the backup plan. But if he has one left at this point, like Jake, might as well go for it this time. Who cares about the other generation of babies fed with demon blood if this generation's going to work? You would keep going, right? Just in case. And I know this doesn't really come up again in canon, but I feel like it's almost kind of been suggested that they've maybe tried this before as well, and maybe it didn't work out or something.
Yeah, because I mean they've had to wait for the cult to be discovered.
Yeah, exactly. And so you would keep making these generations of like demon babies until everything fell into place at the right time, and this was the right time. But they still were carrying on with making more just in case something happened. Yeah, that's true. Because who knows? They might have killed each other, and they would have to wait. Yeah, that makes sense. So maybe it's like in each generation, that generation has to fight itself. In every generation, a Slayer is born, is what you're saying.
Basically.
So, yeah, Yellow Eyes, you're right, he's not happy. And Jake is also not very happy and says, what's going to stop me from waking up and hunting you down and killing you? Yellow Eyes threatens his family, his mother and his younger sister in quite brutal fashion. I think that's why Jake agrees to do this. We're supposed to see him as Sam, essentially, right, here, because I was thinking all the way through, as Yellow Eyes is talking to Jake, like, what if this had been Sam? Like, what would Sam have done here? And he definitely would have gone along with this first bit if Yellow Eyes was threatening Dean. Yeah, I feel like the decisions they make now are the same.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting that the demon's first threat is, like, his mother. Yeah. And it's like, dude, what's your obsession? I know Lilith wasn't great, but, like, come on. I wonder, is this like just like some teenage rebellion? that Yellow Eyes is going through.
Possibly, yeah. Just no, I will kill my mother figure over and over again.
Exactly.
Okay, so Jake's agreed to go on this mission for whatever it is for Yellow Eyes. It cuts back to Dean staring at Sam. So he's alone now, Bobby's gone, and he's talking to him. He's kind of telling Sam about himself as a child and saying that when Sam was younger, like 5, he was asking lots of questions about hunting and, you know, why they lived their life the way they lived it. And that Dean didn't really want to ever tell him because he says, I just wanted you to be a kid for a little longer. And I was just like, oh, you're his dad. Like,
yeah.
Older siblings don't, I think unless you're raised in extreme circumstances, older siblings don't generally see it this way.
No.
Like, you know, yes, you want to protect your brothers or sisters or siblings, you know, but it's not to this level of like, I don't, you know, you can't know about everything in the world because it's horrible and awful.
It's almost, I kind of understand it a little bit in if Sam knew about hunting at such a young age, obviously Dean had to grow up fast, like super fast.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to see that for somebody else, I guess.
Exactly.
Which again is leading back to like your thing of, or what you're saying with like in extreme circumstances.
Because you know, I have a younger brother. We have kind of the same age gap between Sam and Dean, and growing up, it was never this kind of levels of like, no, it's so sad that you're growing up. You're like excited to see them experience things and like learn about the world and go off and do their own thing. Whereas like that's kind of the opposite for Dean. He wanted to keep Sam like, you know, not knowing the realities of the world they live in, and kind of wasn't excited for him to go out and see the world. Like when he went to college, he wanted him to stay so he could protect him where he was. It's really interesting to see that kind of relationship, I think. It's kind of said here as well, with Dean going on and saying how it was his job to protect him.
I always tried to protect you. Keep you safe. Dad didn't even have to tell me. This is always my responsibility, you know? It's like I had one job. Then I screwed it up.
And then apologizes to Sam. And I'm just like, no, Dean. The thing is, Sam is his responsibility a little bit, as in they are responsible for each other because they hunt to each other, right?
Exactly.
But I don't know. I don't know how to vibe with this. I'm like, it's so sad.
It is. It's tragic. That's what it is.
I think it's tragic in that Dean doesn't see any... His job isn't looking after himself. As an adult, your main job should be looking after yourself so you can look after others. But Dean looks after Sam to look after himself, right?
Yeah.
If Sam's happy and fulfilled, Dean is happy and fulfilled. Yeah. I think it's that. I think completely living your life for someone else, it's not actually sustainable. And I think that we know that. And it's shown in this episode. Very clearly.
It's almost like a cautionary tale. It's like, don't live your life for somebody else.
Yeah.
The thing that stuck out to me was like, he's saying that he screwed up, and he really didn't.
No.
There was literally nothing, like, the sequence of events that led to this particular thing that happened was completely out of his control. Like, there was no way that at that diner he could have stopped this from happening. There was no way.
No, exactly.
He looked away for like a second.
But
like...
that second will play in Dean's mind forever. Like, I looked away.
Yeah.
I had one job and I looked away and like I screwed up.
He didn't screw up. No. He did not screw up. There was literally nothing he could have done that would have changed these events from happening. No. And I was like, just have better self-esteem.
Everyone should just have better self-esteem all the time, please. Thanks.
Go find a therapist and, talk out your things.
Mm-hmm.
Don't hold it in, says the person who doesn't go to therapy. But and who absolutely knows she should, but there you go. I give such good advice. Just put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. Do as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. So he continues on, and he says that he let down the people that he loved,
mm-hmm.
but he really didn't. Again,
I know.
Like he said, he let John down.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely didn't.
Nope.
He let Sam down. Again, he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least Sam had somebody there with him.
Yeah,
like, he
exactly.
Didn't die alone.
Oh,
like,
Annabelle.
I'm sorry. But that's like a much nicer way, surely. Like,
yeah,
in his brother's arms. Anyway, I'm just relaying what happened. You can't blame me. Blame Kripke.
I'm putting that on a t-shirt.
And then he asks, "What am I supposed to do?" And then he yells it. And we know what he's about to do. We know what he's about to do because we watched this before, and it still doesn't make it okay.
Dean drives off. I do love this shot. This is very iconic to me, and I don't know why, but his angry, very determined driving, something about that really sticks in my mind. This expression on his face. Kim Manners. That's who we have to thank for that. We see him get all the ingredients for a Crossroads deal out of the trunk of the Impala, buries it at a Crossroads, and kind of waits for a bit. Again, really nice camera angle, like spinning around him. Clearly, like one continuous shot going round. Amazing, I love it. But no one appears for a really, really long time until a demon does appear. I think it's the same demon but different vessel. Am I right?
I think so. The woman though looks really familiar, and I don't know why.
I'm gonna have to go look her up after and see where I know her from. Maybe it's from this. Sometimes I get that in Supernatural. I'm like, I really know you. Where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I know you from Supernatural. But yeah, so it's definitely the same demon because she refers to knowing Dean. I think it's implied that she is. She's taunting him and basically telling him all the ways that Dean thinks he's screwed up. And he threatened to send her back to hell, which fair enough. Or said, I should send you back to hell. And she knows everything that's happened. I guess this is big news in hell. Well, no, I guess she's already out and about on Earth, right? I'm guessing demons can communicate between themselves fairly easily because they know what's going on already. And because this is a big event, leader of the demon army being chosen, like one getting chosen would have definitely made the news, the newsletter, as she said before. And she says,
following in Daddy's footsteps, you want to make a deal.
Dean's not John, but he is in so many ways sometimes.
Yeah, he's so much better than John. And
Dean agrees that he wants Sam back for 10 years, as is the normal deal, and the demon refuses. Even as she's kind of talking, Dean's already bargaining his life away. Goes all the way down to 5 years, first of all. Like it's nothing.
Dean, you're worth more than this. I'll say this forever. Sorry to like go back a little bit on this, but it's kind of interesting that they drop like the crossroad aspect of summoning demons. I know eventually they learn how to like summon them with spells and stuff.
Yeah.
I also think about Crowley as well. Would I take Crowley over summoning demons in a crossroad? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like any day of the week. But like a lot of things that they established in the first couple of seasons, some of the stuff gets dropped. And there's something about this way of summoning I know they're summoning a type of demon, so that's probably why as well.
Yeah. And also, it's the only way they know to summon a demon, because John summoned Yellow Eyes in a different way in 201, so they can do it not at a crossroads, but and to make a deal as well. Because I was going to say, maybe it needs to be specifically like this to make a crossroads deal, but I don't necessarily think that's always true. I think it is just one way of doing it. After he bargains his life down to 5 years, she kind of leans in to kiss him and then sort of turns aside and says no. and walks off. And Dean, of course, says, wait.
Wait.
It's a fire sale and everything must go.
What do I have to do?
This is it. You never want to be in this position where they know you're desperate to sell something.
Yeah.
That you need the money or like need whatever they need to give you. It's play it cool, Dean. He hustles. He should know better than this, but I guess the demon also knows better than that as well.
I mean, she does say, quit groveling. I do wonder, what else they could have asked for.
So as she kind of turns back, because he says to her, like, what do I have to do? Like, I think you're right. Like, what would he have done? I think he actually would have done anything. Whether it was, I don't know, what else they could have asked him to do? Like, kill people, get other people to make crossroads deals? I think Dean would have done it. It sounds as bad as it is. I think he would have done nearly anything. And the demon kind of turns back and says, I shouldn't be doing this. And she offers him a deal for 1 year. And then says, if you try and get out of this in any kind of way, Sam dies. And I noticed that as they make this deal, Dean is the one that kisses her, not the other way around. They fully showed that.
I also wonder if it was like a way to... She leaned in the first time. And had he taken advantage, he might have had 5 years.
That's true.
If it works like that, we don't really know. But like, to stop her going back on her word... Yeah. Maybe that's why.
I can see that actually as well, you're right.
Definitely kiss of death, which just, every deal that they make with the demon, it's just, this is what happens. So he is definitely Kiss Crowley.
We will talk about their summer of love when we get to it. I can't talk about it in this episode.
I have to lighten the mood somehow. It gets so dark. And as they seal the deal, cuts to Sam, and he opens up his eyes and has a bit of a Frankenstein moment.
It's true, yeah, it's actually.
Because he opens his eyes wide and he's heavily breathing. It's like, I'm alive! Anyway, that's exactly how I took it, and you can't tell me otherwise.
Yeah, and then, of course, Dean arrives.
Sammy? Thank God.
Don't thank God.
No,
and then hugs him very tightly, and Sam's confused and hurt because although his knife wound has gone, he's still got like a big bruise or something there, or some kind of evidence that something happened to him. Sam's immediately suspicious as well. He's a smarty pants.
Definitely, because the knife wound's completely gone. Mm-hmm. There's no evidence of it whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which, there's been no evidence of him, healing super fast with the demon blood and stuff.
No. And they're still in the same town, so how much time has passed?
Exactly. So that's got to be, very, very suspicious.
That's a good point, actually. How much time has passed? Because Sam got stabbed at night, and then it's still nighttime. How quickly did Dean decide that he was going to go sell his soul? How many hours did it take?
I would say it was almost instant.
I think so too. I think it's the same night. I don't think a day has passed.
No, I don't think so either. I think literally Sam died. They took him into the room. Mm-hmm. And then Bobby's conversation started happening. That was it. I honestly think it was, God. I don't think an hour passed between the two things. And I do wonder why Dean had to speed off somewhere, because I'm sure that there's it can be any crossroad, right? Or did it have to be a certain type of crossroad? I'm not really sure.
There was some kind of flowers and stuff around the original one, but I think it can be any crossroads. But it doesn't show how far he went. I mean, it might have just been the last. Well, he would have had to. Okay, first of all, let's talk about this. He would have had to walk to his car, which was a mile away, right. 3 miles away or so, to go get the ingredients, then go find a crossroad. So a little bit.
Yeah.
That hike through the woods must have been an emotional hike through the woods.
Yeah, definitely. I do want to say, for being one of the most haunted towns, they're left alone. And as I was thinking this, as I was watching it, the fact that everybody, all the hunters seem to know that it's the most haunted town, I wonder if, they went in and like eradicated the ghosts.
Like it's already been done. Like
yeah, because or do they just hunt the things that like hurt people and leave the other things alone?
I don't know. I mean, maybe it was always just the demons doing this weird generational thing that was the hauntings.
Sam asks, you know, what happened, and Dean doesn't give an answer. He answers with a question,
Yeah.
Which you're talking to Sam, like that probably tips him off. Apart from like the whole fact that this is super super fast,
Yeah,
and he's like got no wound, but like the fact that Dean didn't give him an answer.
What happened to me?
Well, what do you remember?
And Sam responds by saying that I saw you and Bobby. I felt this sharp pain, and then I saw you running at me, and that's about it. Dean runs with it.
yeah.
Basically,
He says that Bobby was the one to patch him up. Like he has magical, mystical healing skills.
He's got some like healing juju.
He's got the special, you know, cream that gets rid of scars. That's in Bobby's bag. Yeah.
Yeah. Sam tells Dean that it was Jake was the one that had stabbed him, that they need to go find him. And Sam is like, he's bloodthirsty.
We gotta find him, Dean. And I swear I'm gonna tear that son of a bitch apart.
Whoa, easy, Van Damme.
I love the fact that Dean calls him Van Damme.
So he's already back with the like, this is really painful, I better make a joke.
And then he does the same thing Bobby tried to do, which was get you some food, and then we can go on from there, kind of thing.
He learned it from Bobby. He learned his pirating skills from Bobby, not from John.
Absolutely.
So he manages to convince Sam not to go after Jake, and then Sam's immediately like, okay, fine, let's go after Yellow Eyes instead, essentially. Like, you're right, he's really out for vengeance, and Dean just wants him to stop. Like, he's just like, no, we need to take a break, we need to take a rest, we need to figure this out, like, you got hurt, and let's just chill. And Sam kind of talks about contacting the Roadhouse for help to find Yellow Eyes, and of course then Dean has to tell him that is also gone, that he thinks he knows Ash is dead, he thinks Ellen is dead as well.
Well, but before they get to asking about the Roadhouse, you know, that they're eating, and it's clear that Sam has informed Dean about what's happened because he says, poor Andy.
Yeah.
And then he asked if Yellow Eyes sold him anything else, and Sam says no.
Yeah. This is the beginning of so much for Sam as well. Like, the lying, the vengeance, the like,
Actually, this reminds me very much of season 1, Sam.
Yes, I agree.
Before he told Dean about his powers, about seeing Jessica, you know, all of that kind of stuff. His wanting to go after Yellow Eyes. That was very much like, he's kind of let that die down a little bit in this season.
Yeah. So
it's just like, it's come back to the forefront quite clearly. Probably because like he was so close.
I think so.
That was probably it. Like, had Yellow Eyes not, I say been there, I know he was technically in his dream. He's starting to learn why he has everything. So now he's more amped up to like fight against it because he has more answers now.
I think so, and I think seeing everyone else that he knew had powers die has really changed something for him. I think Jake betraying him as well really hurt Sam, because he seemed like he was a really good guy and he was corrupted by Yellow Eyes. I think Sam sees a lot of himself in Jake. They're obviously supposed to be the same person. Like, they're written as the same, and
like even their stature is very similar.
I agree. The way they act, the way they sort of like lead a group, the way they think, you know, they're both soldiers in one way or another as well. To see, I guess, a mirror of yourself go dark side when that's been your biggest fear all along is going to change something. Dean says that Ash knew something, and that's probably what got him killed.
Right.
And Sam says, well, he wants to go straight to Bobby then. And Dean's just still like, stop, you need to take care of yourself. And Sam says, sorry, no. And this line was like, but you don't know what Dean's given up for you to be safe. Can you just stay safe for like 5 freaking minutes? Because that's a really tough thing as well, isn't it? Like, seeing someone you love be so self-destructive is really tough. And like, that's what Sam's doing. He's just come back from the dead. Not that he knows that, but he has just got seriously injured. He does know that he was injured. And now he's just like willing to throw himself back into any kind of dangerous situation. Going after Jake, going after Yellow Eyes, investigating why the roadhouse burned down. All of these could lead to dangerous situations. He's literally just come back and he's like, no, I'm off. Bye. Bye, Dean. Dean must be thinking, if you get killed again, I've got nothing else to give here. Like, please, can you just stay here and be safe for like an hour?
Can we just not do anything for like a little bit? Let me bask in the fact that you're alive. Yeah. No, that's the trouble with these two. Like, had Dean said what he had done there, I feel like Sam would have been a bit more like open to possibly taking it a little easy, but at the same time probably not.
No, exactly.
If anything, he probably would have gone off on his own.
Yeah, I think so.
And gotten himself killed.
I mean, this is it. And I kind of understand Dean's frustration in this scene, because he's just like, let's celebrate for 5 minutes, let's chill, let's be fine. And it's just like, no. And I'm just like, oh yeah, it is frustrating.
Whoa. Stop, Sam, stop. Damn it. Hey, you almost died in there. I mean, what would I have... Could you just take care of yourself for a little bit, huh? Just for a little bit. I'm sorry. No.
So they drive off and there's a knocking at the door and it's Bob, like they're at Bobby's place now. Bobby's a little shocked that Sam's upright.
The side-eyeing. He's side-eyeing Dean so hard as they walk into his house. Like, he's just looking at him the whole time like, we need to talk.
Like, if looks could kill, Dean would be a pile of ash, like, right at that door. Like, he would have been up in flames that instant.
Even Sam notices the tension between Dean and Bobby, for sure. He's not dumb. Like, he knows something's up. So
they go further into the house, and Bobby says, well, he's found something, but he doesn't know what it means. They say hell a lot in this, like, so he says, I'm not sure what the hell it means, and then like later on I'm like, okay, we get the hint. We get it. It's demons, it's related to hell. Like, you don't have to, it's not as smart as you think it is. Yeah, no, it's really not. And so Bobby says, it's demonic omens, and it's everywhere apart from this one place in southern Wyoming. There's absolutely no activity whatsoever, but they just don't know what's there and why nothing's happening there. So Bobby says, demons are surrounding it. And he's very subtle in asking Sam to, look into it more.
Oh, yes.
And Bobby says, I got a few books in the car. Come help me get them. Very much like so clenched jaw. Yeah. Talking through your teeth.
Sam looks at them like, he looks at Dean like, you're in trouble. Like, he can tell the energy. You hear that tone of voice with a parental figure, and you're in trouble. Like, just hearing that, I was just like sat smaller in my seat. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. What did I do? I'm so sorry. This scene, I need to talk about this scene because this is my favourite scene of the episode. 100% favourite scene of the episode. I love it to death. I'm going to watch it again and repeat maybe, but probably not because it almost made me cry. Also, the brightest scene of the episode, as I said earlier, everything else is really dark. This is nice. So Bobby and Dean go outside, and they're among all the cars, the like broken down cars, which first of all symbolism, but fine. And Bobby fully turns on Dean.
You stupid ass! What did you do? What did you do?
And he knows what Dean did. He doesn't even let him get a word in edgeways. He's like, what did you do? And then he's like, you made a deal. It's like, he knows what he did. And asks him how long he got. Dean tells him it's just a year. And Bobby's just so... The emotion that Bobby is displaying here, I can't fully describe, because I don't feel like I've ever had to feel it. It's anger and it's disappointment.
Yes.
And it's sadness for the person that you're talking to. And I'm glad I've never felt that. I'm like...
That's a lot to feel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, after Dean reveals that he has 1 year, he kind of tries to justify it by saying, well, I have this year that I can go after Yellow Eyes.
Yeah.
He says I've got nothing else to lose now.
Yeah, I know.
I was like, I literally just want to shake my desk and be like, no.
Flip the desk, Annabelle, do it. Righteous anger.
But then Bobby does it for me.
I could throttle you.
I hate Dean's response. Sorry to smack my desk, but no.
What would send me downstairs ahead of schedule?
I don't think either Sam or Dean at this point would have been sent to hell.
Bobby's line here is iconic, iconic, iconic.
What is it with you Winchesters, huh? You, your dad, you're both just itching to throw yourselves down the pit.
The thing is, this is known about them because Yellow Eyes reiterates this later to Dean. Like, he says the same things here that Bobby's saying to him, obviously in a different way, but it's known about them that they have this tendency, and I wonder how relevant that is, actually. It's just, it pings something in my brain, like, they know this about them, like, could this possibly have been planned in some way?
That's my point. Dad brought me back, Bobby. I'm not even supposed to be here. At least this way, something good could come out of it, you know? It's like my life can mean something.
What? And it didn't before? Have you got that low an opinion of yourself? Are you that screwed in the head?
Again, going back to what is and what should never have been, how can he forget that had happened? Like, his life did mean something. He saved all of those people.
Yeah. And
for some reason, that's not enough. And I don't know why. And I mean, I do know why. It's fucking John Winchester, let's be real. You could save all the people in the world over and over again, and like, he would still feel inadequate for whatever reason.
He was saying this to Sam while Sam was still dead. Sam was his job. Sam was his responsibility. He screwed up by letting Sam die. I say letting within quotation marks, which is really hard to do on a podcast. He thinks his life hasn't amounted to anything because he failed in that. Hunting is second. Protecting Sam is first, and has always been first.
Yeah.
And this is what this is. And I mean, Bobby is us. Bobby is us in this scene, because he says to him, like, it didn't before, like, it didn't mean anything before this. He's so angry at Dean. He's angry at Dean because Dean thinks this of himself. Bobby obviously, like, you can see it in this scene. This is when Bobby became a father figure to them, I think. Yeah. This scene here. Because you can tell that he loves Dean. Like,
yes.
And wants to protect him, and can't believe that he's done this. Because he obviously holds Dean in high regard. He thinks he's great. Like, he's his son. So for Dean to think so poorly of himself is
almost a reflection.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're completely right with what you said before. This is when Bobby's like, well, they need parenting.
Yeah. Yeah. They cannot be left alone to their own devices.
No.
They have the horrible influence of John Winchester. And
they need to be shown their self-worth and self-esteem, because I think Sam has it more than Dean. I think Sam is more well-adjusted in some ways, in other ways maybe not. But Dean needs the most parenting here at this point. Like, he's never had it.
Exactly. You know, he's had to be the parent. So, he has glimpses of a mum and a dad that did look out for them in the correct way.
Yeah.
And then that was torn away. So, of course, like, he, as we know, he idolizes Mary.
Yeah.
And probably was always thought, like, how would Mary do this?
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. Dean says, like, I couldn't let him die. He's my brother, which is just Winchester logic. Yeah. Bobby makes an excellent point that Dean clearly didn't think of. He said, how is he going to feel when he finds out you are going to hell? Dean kind of can't seem to process that. Says to him, you know, how did you feel when you found out John was in hell? And then Dean kind of realizes, I think he already knew that he wasn't going to tell Sam. But at this point, he's like, well, Sam can never know now. He can't feel like I feel.
I mean, it's evident in how this episode ends that I think he misjudged Sam.
Yeah.
With this, and rightly so, because what is said at the end of this episode hasn't been said before.
Yeah.
So of course you anticipate people's reactions to things that you're going to tell them, and you always go off of what has happened in the past.
Yeah.
And I don't think good things have happened in the past.
No. The thing is, I think for Dean, this was very much an impulse decision, and it was kind of like, do this, deal with the consequences later. And by not telling Sam immediately, he's just pushing those consequences down the line. I think he must have realised at some point that either Sam's going to figure it out or he's going to have to tell him. I mean, there's a point where he would definitely have to tell him, you know, a year from now.
Yes, for sure. Bobby starts to cry and, like, holds Dean's face.
I know. I wanted this moment to just be, like, a little bit longer than it was.
Yes. Yeah, me too. But this is Supernatural. Any kind of progress that gets made has to be interrupted.
Yeah.
And so it's interrupted by some noises amongst the cars. They kind of go sneakily to find out, you know, what the noise was, and it's Ellen. So she's actually survived.
Yeah.
She gives them a big old hug.
I love Ellen in this. I think it's great that she was there. She fully only exists in this episode. I just need to say this to push the story along. She says nothing in this episode that doesn't push the story on. So sorry, Ellen. Yep.
Yeah, she's a plot device.
She is very much a plot device in this, which is a shame because she doesn't really react to anything at all. There's a little bit, but she doesn't really get involved in the main plot, and then is just there to be like, this is happening, and this is happening, and this is happening.
Come on. It could have been that hard for them to, like, actually.
Is there like some kind of, you know, like the Bechdel test where it's like it's not good representation if a woman is just on screen if they're only talking about a man? I feel like this does pass that, but I feel like there needs to be a word for or a phrase for when a woman is brought on only as a plot device, because I feel this happens a lot in Supernatural.
It does, yeah. I'm sure it does too.
I mean, in this case, it's fine. I think it's fine. I'm going to give them a pass and, like, judge me on this, but I think it's okay because it's Ellen and she's already an established character, and you do need someone. They had established before that there was knowledge that Ash had that they didn't have, so they needed somehow to get that to them.
I don't know. It's just the way that they explain why she wasn't there.
It's silly.
It is really silly, and, like, in terms of, like, the big meta, right? Mm-hmm. This makes sense, but if you're just watching it in the first way through and you don't know about the meta, this is just like so the reason why she wasn't in the Roadhouse is because they ran out of pretzels and she went out to go get pretzels.
Yeah.
That's not how you run a bar. unless somebody is there who's like, I want pretzels right now, right here. Like, they could have used Joe. They could have used anything else, or, like, Ash could have said something, or just some other way. It feels like, it feels like an angel would have done something, right?
See, as you were saying that, I was like, well, Ash knew something bad was going on. Maybe he engineered a way for Ellen to be out of the bar, or he was trying to figure stuff out because he knew something bad was going to happen. And then something bad happened to him, but he managed to save Ellen by sending her out.
But, I mean, they didn't say that either.
No, this is only my headcanon.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels way too coincidental.
There was also no real reason why they had to kill off Ash, other than to up the stakes. But I felt like the Roadhouse being burnt down was an emotional impact enough without killing off Ash too. Like, this episode could have happened with him there as well. Like, all the same things could have happened, all the same beats in the story. I think it was just to, like, up the stakes. Maybe
he's too much of an ex machina.
Yeah, I think we were saying that, like, he's too much like, oh, I can just figure things out and say things, and, like, I'm too smart, so he had to go. He's a Charlie. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think so. God, that sucks.
This happens a lot. So, like, Ash is too much for this show. Like, he can figure things out too easily, so they kill him off. Charlie's the same. Like, she could just figure things out and computer hack and stuff that apparently Sam can do anyway. So they kill her off. And then it also happens to Cass as well, that he becomes, like, too powerful. It's, like, too powerful for them to have an angel about. So he's either gone, gets killed, or they depower him for some reason. It's a shame. I just think it's a shame they killed off Ash. Like, they could have killed him in this episode, and I feel like it would have had more emotional weight.
Yes. I feel like when you do off-screen deaths for characters who you have an attachment for, it just feels cheap.
Yeah, I agree, actually. I think if it was me, and, like, this is just... I think they should have kept Ash. He could have arrived with Ellen to give them this information, and then they could have killed him later on in the episode. Like, I think that would have been more interesting, personally. Definitely. Like, with what happened. Yeah. Okay, I remember that because I want to bring that up for later on in the episode. So Ellen had mentioned that Ash had called her to say there was something in a safe, and Ellen had managed to retrieve. The demons didn't get to it, and is a map. It's all very convenient.
Yes, it's all. This would have been better with Ash.
Yeah,
for him to come in and just be like, "This is what I wanted to show you guys."
Yeah, fine. I mean, they would have had to pay another actor then as well, but, like, yeah, fine.
And so she unfolds this map, and there's sort of X marks the spots in different parts of southern Wyoming. Bobby's reading, and he's figured out what it is. Each of the X's, I don't know why he was reading a book for them to figure out that these were churches, but okay.
I mean,
all right. Maybe
it's a book of church. Look, I've definitely seen for sale a book of churches that I really want. This is something that not many people know about me. I really love architecturally churches. Like, I really like to go visit them and look at the different architecture of them. And I saw a book that I really want that's all about all the different churches in England and all the different architectural styles.
Actually, that sounds really cool. So, like, I do wonder if it's because of where we grew up.
I think so. I think possibly. I love architecture. I think this may have been it. Maybe he was looking up what those X's were in, and, like, had a reference book of, like, churches in the United States. Anyway, I'm making up a backstory for Bobby reading the book. One thing that always gets me, and they do this so much in TV, where they have, and Dean did this as well in Shadow, where you have spots or, like, marks on a map, and then they draw lines so it's, like, perfectly what they needed to find. Whereas all their, like, scribbled out mistake ones that they tried to draw it and then it didn't line up. Like, why did they not draw a big pentagon first of all? You know, or, like, they always do it in, like, Sharpie or something, and it's like, that's the only copy of that you have. Put some tracing paper down. Like, it really bothers me. Like, how are people seeing these exact symbols in these spots? Like, Dean should not have been able to find that symbol in Shadow. It made no sense with the spots that he had on the floor.
Yeah, no, that one definitely was too much. But this one I actually kind of get, because Bobby says that these churches were built by Samuel Colt. We know he made the gun that can kill anything and everything, including demons. I know we eventually get an episode with Samuel Colt, kind of, but not really. But it would have been nice to have been, like, more of a backstory for him, because my assumption is that he was the one who wrote about devil's traps and things like that, which is why Bobby would have known it was a devil's trap.
He was I think he's just a famous demon hunter. I think Dean even has to say in this, like, to signal to the audience, the guy who made the gun. Like, I think he says
yeah.
I just want that moment in my life where I feel such conviction that something definitely lines up correctly that I will draw on a map in Sharpie. Like, I want that level of, like, confidence in myself. And
okay, all right. I would have probably just drawn a circle, but there you go.
Exactly. It's Dean who actually figures it out once Bobby's drawn the devil's trap.
What if Colt wasn't trying to keep the demons out? What if he was trying to keep something in?
I do like Ellen's response in this of, like, oh, that's a comforting thought. Which, I know she's been surrounded by, like, hunters and all that for a really long time, and her husband was one. Surely you would have more reaction than that, because she's not a hunter. She just facilitates hunters.
But Ellen's very stoic. She is very stoic, and she has been throughout this, and I feel like sarcasm's the way to go if you're in a life and death situation. I can vibe with that.
I mean, I can too, but like, I don't know. Of all the things that she's seen, I do feel like she probably might have had a bit more of a reaction of like, there's something bad here that needs to stay in and not come out.
She's not allowed more of a reaction, Annabelle, because she's a plot device, so it's fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I forgot.
We see a car pulling up to the railway after they've been talking about the railway and how it's a big devil's trap. And it's Jake. And I noticed here, and I don't know if you noticed this too, he's dressed exactly like Sam.
I didn't.
He's got like the hoodie on with the jacket and the jeans, and he's dressed like Sam in Pilot. Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting because they had been trying to mirror him with Sam all episode, and they finally got him out of his like fatigues and then dressed him as Sam. So I guess when Sam sees him next, he can be like, "That's me."
Yeah, I didn't actually pick up on that. That's really interesting, actually.
Unless, and this is my other headcanon, did the demon provide him with some clothes so he could change out of his army fatigues, but wasn't guessing that Sam would be there, so had Sam clothes?
I don't think so, because he had different clothes on when he was at the campfire.
Oh, okay, fine. I thought it was funny, like the demon preparing for Sam to be the final boy, and then was like, "Oh no, I only bought Sam clothes."
So as Jake approaches the tracks, Yellow Eyes appears behind him. Yellow Eyes is very, like I said this earlier, but he reminds me so much of Dean in this episode.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Like his kind of like, he's very sarcastic. He's very like, howdy, like, how's your trip? Like, I don't really care, but like, I'm gonna act like, and the pop culture references and stuff like that. It's very like, I was like, this doesn't feel right, and I think it just clicked that he reminded me of Dean.
Yeah. It's interesting, obviously, the actor who plays Yellow Eyes here, because the only thing he had to go off of before he had this role, John being Yellow Eyes, so like Jeffrey Dean Morgan being Yellow Eyes. And I guess with him, he was quite sarcastic, and he did a good job carrying that on. Like, you can see that it's the same demon from possessing John to possessing this janitor. Mm-hmm. So I think it must have started there with how Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays the demon.
Yeah.
Which makes sense then why it's kind of like Dean. Because, okay, anyway. Good actors is why.
Basically, yeah. So Jake's like, okay, I'm here, what do I have to do? Yellow Eyes directs him to the crypt that he needs to go to. The same one that was being referred to by the group earlier.
Yeah. And,
they have a little bit of a back and forth. Jake's like, well, why don't you do it? And he says, well, I can't do it right yet because of reasons. And then Yellow Eyes gives him a gun.
Yes.
He gives him the Colt.
Yeah.
And then he proceeds to tell him that gun is the only thing that can kill him.
It's a test, right?
It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to, or is it, because he then says, if you kill me, then like you'll not have riches, you won't be royalty, you won't have this, that, and the other. And for some reason, that is what convinces Jake.
Yeah, this didn't make sense to me. And I said, like, Jake's been a mirror for Sam this whole episode. He's made all the same decisions that Sam would make. Like, originally when Yellow Eyes is threatening his family, he goes with him. This is where that ends. Because Sam would no way give up shooting Yellow Eyes for this.
Yeah. I mean, Yellow Eyes does say that, you can't go back to the army because you're AWOL, which I don't think is necessarily true. I think if you go back, you might have discipline, but like you may go back.
I mean, he has to explain how he left Afghanistan, so that might be a bit tough.
That's true. That's true.
Bad things has happened to him and he's killed a bunch of people. I don't think he was thinking that he could go back to his normal life after this.
But you've just had an interaction with somebody who faces this all the time, right? You've just had an interaction with Sam, who was able to explain what was going on and like certain things. And I know you don't have a lot of time to think about this kind of thing, but he did just have a really long drive. Like, wouldn't you think about like, why does this person know so much, and is there something that I could do?
I think this is what it is. I think they worded this conversation badly, because how I read it in what Yellow Eyes is trying to say is that the end of the world is going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to happen whether you do this or not. And I think that's kind of how he should have been framing it a bit better. Mm-hmm. The apocalypse is coming. Do you want to be on this side of it or the other side of it? Like, do you want to be fighting against it, or do you want to be a ruler in the new world order kind of thing? And he does allude to that. You know, he says, like, your family will be royalty after the apocalypse. Everything will be different. But I don't feel like it's strong enough that you get that point across. And it just feels like Jake's being a bit weak here.
Definitely, because he's like, you know, Yellow Eyes says, you're a leader. You open that crypt and you'll have an army. But, like, there's no reason to think that Jake would want an army.
No, exactly.
Because we don't know, like you were just saying, we don't know a lot about his backstory. Some of the decisions that are going to be, like, that he has to make, we just don't know his motivations behind them. Mm-hmm. Really?
I think this. I do think it's a poorly worded conversation. I think they should have written Yellow as a bit stronger here. It is odd for Jake to do this. Once he knows that Yellow Eyes can't step over that line. So he then has to walk like 50 miles or drive 50 miles, I'm not sure what he did, into the cemetery. So he's got a long old time to think about whether or not he's going to do this for them. Mm-hmm. Also thinking, well, he can't get me while I'm in here. But I guess also Jake's thinking, the only person that could have helped me, I've killed as well. So it is a tough situation for him. But I think they should have been more pressing on, like, this is the apocalypse. What are you going to do?
Yeah, it definitely... His character flips are really bizarre. Like, mm-hmm. it went from... We saw him at the end of part 1.
Yeah.
And he's decided that he needs to kill Sam because they can't get away if they're both alive.
Yeah.
And then we see him wanting to go after Yellow Eyes. And because Yellow Eyes threatened his family, he said, okay, I'll go along with you. Mm-hmm. And now he's... okay with it. Like,
I wonder if, because we see in this that his powers have evolved somewhat, I wonder if Sam was almost right. He was thinking sort of in most of this season that the powers he have are almost a corrupting influence on him, like making him think darker thoughts and acting in a different way. And I wonder if in some way is true. It kind of proves to be, I think, if you look at season 3, because I'd say 3 and 4, because as the powers kind of get stronger and other things go on, you do see a shift in personality. And I wonder if that happened quicker for Jake because he killed Sam and then he suddenly had an increase in these powers.
Well, and he didn't just kill Sam, he also killed Ava. So exactly. He killed 2 people.
Yeah.
And we did see that with Ansem.
Yeah.
That, you know, he started to get more and more corrupt with the more people he killed.
So maybe you were right in your assumption that Yellow Eyes was trying to get them to kill people because it is a corrupting influence on them and it makes them give in to their powers and the demons easier in some way. Mm-hmm. Again, all headcanon.
Buddy boy, you have the chance to get in on the ground floor of a thrilling opportunity. What do you say?
Jake lowers the gun and, you know, he goes off.
Yeah.
It's now nighttime and Jake he arrives at the crypt. As he's walking towards it, we see Dean behind a gravestone. Mm-hmm. I really like the way they did all of this. This was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but Sam says, howdy, Jake.
Howdy, Jake.
Now, the demon has said howdy to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
That's how he how he appears. He said, howdy, Sam. And then he said, howdy, Jake. And now Sam is saying, howdy, Jake. Like, I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's very suspicious.
I think if they're on purpose, and I think you're completely right, I hadn't really clocked it, but it does make a lot of sense with what happens. And I think makes sense with my theory of the corrupting influence of the powers and things. So all 4 of them advance with guns on Jake. So there's Dean, Sam, Bobby, and Ellen. And Jake looks at Sam like, what? I killed you.
Yeah.
You were dead. I killed you.
Yeah? Well, next time, finish the job.
I did.
I noticed in this, it's Bobby who distracts Jake from asking those questions, not Dean. because I think Dean's kind of looking at Sam like, oh no, he's gonna figure it out. And Bobby's like distracts him. And Jake goes on and says to Sam, because Sam's levelling a gun at him, like how he won't kill him because he didn't. He had his chance and he didn't kill him. And this is when he goes full dark side and tells Ellen to put the gun to her head. So he has Andy's powers now because she does do it shakily, obviously against her own will.
So this is the point where I think Ash would have been like, this is where we could have killed Ash.
Yes, he could have got Ash to do that.
This is where I think Ash could have been killed and would have had more of an effect, because it would have been Jake like showing his power and like his willingness to his corruption basically. Yeah. Because in this point he's just told Ellen to put the gun to her head and like to sort of like calm everyone down, I guess.
Or even worse, he could have told Ellen to shoot Ash.
Yeah.
That would have been okay. As much as I don't like supernatural killing off characters, that would have been a good character death, and it would have been really shocking. Like, yes. You know, just very quick, like Ellen shoot Ash, and she just does it, and they were like, whoa. Ellen is again pretty stoic in what's happening to her, and says to them to shoot him, and he kind of says like, well, you know, my bullet's quicker, and you know, bullet's quicker in your gun, etc. So don't. So I noticed the order in which they put their guns down. I noted weird things this episode. So Dean looks to Bobby to see what to do, and as Bobby lowers his gun, Dean lowers his gun, and it's not until Dean has done that Sam does. It's very much like a hierarchical thing. I don't know what Ellen is to Bobby. Like, they seem to know each other and kind of respect each other. Like, they definitely know each other. But Dean almost looks to Bobby like, you know, she's your friend kind of thing. What are we going to do? I feel like that's the communication that was there. And obviously,
I see it that way too. Jake pulls out the Colt. Like, he turns his back on everybody, thinking that he's got control, I'm sure. And he puts it into the crypt. Bobby and Dean grab Ellen and the gun fires, but luckily it doesn't hit her. Yeah. And then Sam picks up his gun and starts shooting Jake in the back multiple times.
He shoots him 3 times. I like the Bobby and Dean's in sync kind of thing. It's very smart because they had the momentum to push her back and let her fire. Sam's face when he shoots Jake.
This is like bloodlust. I was like, what am I looking at? He completely, I was like, you get it, Jared. He did so well. Like, oh my God. He didn't look like Sam.
No. We made such an error last week because as he was standing over Jake in the last episode with the big iron bar, and we're like, when does Sam ever kill anybody who's like on the ground defenseless? And then there's Jake on the ground saying, no, please, Sam, don't. And he shoots him another 3 times. So I guess now. We're too much in the Dean mindset of like, Sam could never kill anybody.
Yeah, we really are. We really are. That's really funny. But like, I guess, so I remember that Jake died, right? Yeah. I honestly thought it was Dean that kills him in this episode.
I thought so too. I didn't remember it was Sam.
And I think because it is so brutal, like this is so out of character. You pointing out the parallels between him and Jake, like Sam and Jake, is probably the reason why Sam is so brutal. Yeah. He is trying to kill that dark part of him.
You're right. Oh, you're right.
It is very much, he's looking in a mirror and he decided that, you know, he was not going to be this person.
You're so right. You're so on it.
You know, as Jake has died, the crypt starts to open. Bobby, in all his wisdom, says, "Oh no."
Oh no.
Because I mean, that's all you can really say.
I love
and and he's like, "It's hell."
I'm sorry. Best line of the season. Like, oh no, it's hell. Like, it's literally hell. Like, it's hell. And Bobby's like, yeah, it's hell. Like, I'm sorry. It's good. Maybe Bobby's the comic relief in this episode.
Maybe. Let's go back a little bit before that. Blood splats on Sam's face.
Oh, yes.
And he, like... I hate this. Dean looks over to him.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that moment, Dean doesn't recognize Sam.
Yeah, you're completely right. The look on his face is disbelief that he did this. Again, we don't think that Sam can kill people. So Dean doesn't think that Sam could do this.
Especially after everything that Sam has been saying about the special children.
Yeah.
Like, that the Yellow Eyes is doing everything that they can to make these kids kill. And then he did it. Then he killed.
Oh, no. Do you think, as he runs up to Sam in this moment, he was thinking, this is the moment that John was telling me about?
Maybe.
And then he's just brought him back. And then this was, John has said to him, you need to kill your brother if you can't save him. It's like, did he bring him back just to have to kill him again? Look, I never read it that way before, but you
because
got that.
this is, yeah, I mean, it absolutely is. This is the moment.
Sam went dark side. This is when Sam went dark side.
I mean, we always knew that Dean would never kill Sam. We always knew that. That was never going to happen.
I know. But Sam has been asking him through this whole season, you have to like take care of me if I go dark side. And now Dean's seeing that kind of happen in front of him, having just brought him back from the dead and trading his life to do so. Again, I don't think that all of that nuance in how they're thinking and how they're feeling is necessarily seen until you rewatch this and know what's going to happen later on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It definitely adds to it.
So is it really there, or are we projecting?
I think it's there. I don't think that we're like making this up. I think it's there. I do. I really, really do. So yes, so Dean grabs the Colt and they all take cover because black smoke starts pouring out of the doors of this mausoleum. It kind of zooms out and you can see that it destroys the points of the devil's trap. Like they kind of explode into fiery flame. You see that the track breaks and curls up in one place. And I think you see like footsteps walk through.
In between all of that kind of happening, Dean is sort of yelling. And good old Ellen somehow knows this. Again, she's not a hunter, but she knows that it's a devil's gate and it's a damn door to hell. Like... How do you know this? You're not a hunter. You've established that you're not a hunter. You didn't want to be a hunter because of your husband.
I guess she's around hunters. I guess it's like old wives' tale knowledge that these gates exist. And to be fair, if you do look at the door, there's a big fiery pit there. What else is it going to be? What else?
Right, but like, I feel like this was originally Bobby's line, but they're like, well, Ellen hasn't said enough yet in this episode, so we need her to say what it is.
I think you're right.
Because it does for the demon expert not to answer this question.
Yeah,
seems a bit silly.
I mean, Bobby answers that they have to shut the door. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I feel like they could have switched those lines. I think that would have been better. And
it's Ellen who says that they got to shut the.
Does she? Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, she totally does say that.
Like, it could have been Bobby that said it's a gate to hell, and then Ellen said, okay, we have to shut the door.
Like it could have been well sarcastic as well, like maybe we should shut it. Like I would have quite enjoyed that moment, to be fair. Yeah. I noticed that Dean, as they're running to like shut the door or running towards it, he's checking the Colt to see if it has any bullets left in it. Okay, I have a question here. Why did the demon leave a bullet in the Colt? Because there was no need to. And also, do you think he would have taken that bullet out had Jake been Sam?
So I wonder how much demons can actually use this gun. So we know that there's such thing, like, because they put the devil's trap on the car to stop them from opening the trunk. Whether there's some sort of like demon failsafe on the gun, so he cannot actually open it to get the bullet out.
That's a good point. I never thought of that. that totally could be it because it has it engraved on it or something. I feel like maybe Crowley contradicts this later on. Oh, I can't remember how they deal with the cult later on. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he couldn't take it out because it was warded in some way. That makes sense. Also, as soon as he handed that... I need to go to this point. As soon as he handed that gun to Sam, if Sam had been Jake, if he had been the final one, he would have just shot him and this whole plan would have been over. So why did they... I guess he thought he would have corrupted him enough by that point for him not to shoot him. But I mean, it's a stupid plan.
It really is.
I can't see any universe in which Sam would not have shot Yellow Eyes as soon as he got his hand on that Colt.
So it's just like...
But then maybe, maybe let's just go with this. If Sam had been the final boy, I just like saying it, Yellow Eyes maybe would not have personally handed that to him. He would have left it in the trunk or appeared to him in a dream or something. There would have been another way to hand it off. But he felt safe enough with Jake that he could be manipulated to hand it over in person. Okay, let's go with that because it was a big plot hole for me. It was like, why?
It's very interesting that Yellow Eyes was rooting for Sam when everything points to Sam doing the complete opposite of what Yellow Eyes would want to do. Because as soon as Sam would find out that exactly like what he wanted him to go to, well, he would have figured out it was a massive devil's trap. He would have figured out it was Samuel Colt's like legacy, all this other stuff. And I'm just like,
why Sam? Yeah. So, okay, fine. Like, whatever with the Colt having bullets. I think you're right in that, fine, Yellow Eyes couldn't get them out. So Yellow Eyes appears behind Dean. He kind of immediately just pulls the gun from his hand using, like, demon powers. Like, Dean, get a better grip, get a bungee cord. Like, my friend, learn these lessons. Then he throws Dean and he hits his head really hard on the edge of a gravestone as he kind of flies and, like, falls to the floor. And for the rest of this episode... Dean has like a sort of running rivy little blood sort of down his face. Very much. This has happened before with the cut in his head. It's mirroring like 201, the scar that he got in the car accident, I think. And I think that's on purpose as well. But fine.
He either gets a head wound or a heart wound.
Oh no.
Depending on what the theme of the episode is.
Exactly. The other three are trying to close the gates, but Sam kind of spots that Dean's in trouble and runs towards Yellow Eyes, and immediately this gets thrown against a tree. Like, he's no help whatsoever. He just sort of gets pinned there, and Yellow Eyes then pins Dean against the gravestone that he's slumped against. Yellow Eyes talks to Dean.
This line, right?
I gotta thank you. You see, demons can't resurrect people unless a deal's made. I know, red tape, it'll make you nuts. But thanks to you, Sammy's back in rotation. Now, I wasn't counting on that, but I'm glad. I liked him better than Jake anyhow.
Was he not counting on it? Or was he?
I think, and me and Annabelle were talking earlier about this, maybe not necessarily Yellow Eyes was counting on him bringing Sam back, but I think it is part of the plan. I think this plays into the themes of free will in the series. I don't know how much of this is predestined for them to do. It's interesting because to be fair, if you're talking about the big meta, there are other ways it could go. And that's kind of brought up as well later on. And I'm being really cagey here, but I don't want to talk about it too much at this point. But I think it's really interesting, and I think that some of these choices that they make are questioned way, way, way down the line as to whether or not they've fully made those decisions themselves or had them either they've been pushed towards them or kind of made for them. But I think Yellow Eyes is right here. I don't think he necessarily knew that Dean was going to do this. Right. But I think he was always supposed to. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, because who is writing the story they knows the story, whereas the people in the story don't.
Exactly. He's a character. Yellow Eyes is a character in the story, which is such a weird thing to say about a TV show. Of course, but it's also, he is.
He also then he sees like doubt in Dean's mind about, he calls it a good deal.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you not thought about like why you got such a good deal? Like why you only had to give up a year? And then he says, are you 100% sure that's Sam? I know this is slightly different, but in my time of dying, Dean came back 100%. I know he's not completely dead, and he came back as himself, came back from a demon deal, whereas I know Sam is 100% dead, so it could be different.
Okay, but remember, Dean doesn't think he did come back, right? Because he had that conversation with Sam about how he's so angry all the time, and he says to Sam, what if I wasn't brought back, right? Because he can see problems in his own personality that maybe weren't there before John brought him back. And I know and you know that this is related to his grief for John, really.
Yeah.
And his way of dealing with it is not particularly healthy. And it would seem like his personality has changed because he's so angry all the time. But if you already had that seed of doubt in your mind that you were brought back with a demon deal and you weren't brought back completely right, well, and then this demon's saying to you, well, what if Sam wasn't brought back right?
Yeah, it would definitely play into that. The thing is, when he's talking about these, when he's talking about those feelings, at first they don't know that it's from a demon deal. They kind of suspect it is.
That's true.
And it's not until a little bit later that it's actually confirmed.
Yeah.
Because I think in that same conversation is when they were like, did John make a deal? And that's why I'm back.
But I mean, all those pieces have been put into place for Dean now. He knows John's in hell. He basically knows the same thing that he's now done for Sam, John did for him. So why would it not work the same? And I mean, also I wonder, because Dean watched Sam shoot Jake, I wonder how much of himself he saw in Sam at that moment. If you think about when he killed the vampire in Bloodlust, I wonder how much he sees his own anger reflected in Sam.
I'm not sure the anger is justified. Hear me out. I know Jake just killed you, right? So you're going to be pretty angry about that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know Jake.
No. So
there's no reason for him, apart from seeing himself in Jake, right? That's kind of where I'm how I was seeing it. That level of destruction doesn't really make sense for the person that he's doing this to.
No, but I mean, I think killing Jake's a means to an end of finally getting to Yellow Eyes, right? Too much has happened. Jake's the next step to getting to Yellow Eyes. This is my revenge. This is the vengeance that he's seeking. I don't necessarily think. I don't know. See, I don't know how much it is Sam giving into the dark side, and how much it is just him carrying out his revenge quest that John kind of set him on. It's really hard to differentiate the two, I think. But I fully understand how Yellow Eyes here plants that doubt in Dean's mind. I think it makes total sense.
It's interesting. So Yellow Eyes here also says,
you of all people should know that what's dead should stay dead.
He said that 3 times in that episode.
Yeah.
And
children shouldn't play with dead things. I remembered it, sorry.
Yes. That was the episode we were both referring to, because I think in that episode too is where they have that conversation.
That episode was all about Dean being brought back from the dead and dealing with that, thinking that he's some kind of monster. They're making parallels of him and the zombie that was resurrected. And here he's done the same for Sam. So it makes sense to make those same parallels.
That's true. That's very true. And then he makes the observation that we all know and we all hate.
I couldn't have done it without your pathetic, self-loathing, self-destructive desire to sacrifice yourself for your family.
All right, read him.
Let me just put on my glasses, shall I? Okay, all right. How would you react to that? Someone just calling out your fatal flaws.
The thing is, they're known to you, though. It's whether or not anyone else can see them. But I mean, Dean knows that people can, because this is the same conversation he had with Bobby, except the demon's happy that he did it. and Bobby's sad that he did it. Dean knows these are his flaws. I think sometimes he's proud of them.
I think so too. He thinks sacrificing for your family is 100% okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he thinks it's okay to sacrifice for the world.
No.
Because, I mean, we saw that at the beginning of this episode.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he told Bobby just to let it end. Like, it doesn't matter. My family's gone. Why should I care about the world?
Yeah.
And he said that in What Is and What Should Ever Be. You know, why should we sacrifice everything for the world? So, yeah, he's absolutely proud to sacrifice for his family.
Yeah. He thinks that's his ultimate purpose and as well.
Mm-hmm.
Dean's purpose in life, as he sees it, is not to live a happy life and, you know, fulfill himself. His only purpose is to be a sacrifice to save his family. Like, that's why he was raised. That's how John's raised him, to protect Sam. And ultimately, that was all he was kind of pushing him towards, was ultimately to sacrifice himself for Sam. And it's funny because his last order to Dean completely contradicted that, which you've mentioned before, which is why it was such a problem. Like, Dean had such a problem coming to terms with that, because it completely contradicts his whole life up to that point.
Exactly. Exactly. It's something that's physically impossible for him. There's no way. Like, if anything, he completed his mission when Sam died. Exactly. He no longer had to do anything. This episode could be completely different. He could have done the Hunter's funeral for Sam, because Sam isn't needed in this episode.
I thought that too. The whole thing could have happened without him. It
would have been horrible, absolutely horrible. But granted, yes, it was. They needed that extra person to help Ellen, and then to be able to stop Jake. So as Yellow Eyes is about to kill Dean, we see like a figure. So, okay, this is one really cool thing that I really liked about how they were showing the demons and everything coming out of hell.
Yeah.
There were flashes of like silhouettes of people.
Yeah.
With the smoke.
Yeah.
And one of these silhouettes turns out to be John, and he manages to like rip the demon out of the vessel.
Yes, love that.
Which was really cool. I gotta say, I really enjoyed that. And he like wrestles him away. The body drops to the ground, and demon escapes John's grasp, and he then goes back into the body. But Dean has managed to pick up the Colt. This is my favorite shot of like in terms of special effects. Is the bullet. I think it's because of how it's used.
Yeah.
In the next, like, this is a recap moment, basically. So we see this multiple times.
Yeah, I think so.
But it is very, very cool. Like, we see the like gunpowder go off, and like the explosion making the bullet go down the barrel and like twist, all that, and like, and you also see part of Dean's face. I don't know. It's just all very cool because you're so close to his face, and you do see his like Dean flinch, like his eyes sort of blink, which is really cool. I don't know, it's a very nice shot. I really appreciate it. Like I said, of all the special effects that were in this season, this is probably like my favorite because it's so iconic. He shot Yellow Eyes, or the vessel of Yellow Eyes, in the heart. It's a different aura, I'm going to say that, because with the vampire it was like blue electricity, whereas this one is yellow. I mean, it makes sense because he had yellow eyes and all that kind of stuff. It's the same kind of death. You see the electricity in like the skeleton kind of and all this stuff, and he drops to the floor and a bit of smoke evaporates essentially.
It's great.
It's a really good sequence.
We kind of know he's dead because Sam gets let down from where he's being pinned to the tree, and Bobby and Ellen finally managed to shut the gates. I don't think necessarily Yellow Eyes was involved in that, but they managed to shut them, which is, I mean, great. I mean, come on, Bobby and Ellen shut the gates of hell. Like, come on, like, such a big moment. And it's sort of like,
yeah, I mean, they deserve more, more than that. I kind of hate this. Because John looks so bloody proud of them. And I'm like, no, buddy. You should have been proud of them all this time.
Yeah, okay.
There's just something about this that I was just like, I mean, yeah, okay, it's like, it's your life work and your son's completed it and you're proud of that, all this kind of stuff. But you are a terrible father. I was just like, get out of here. Get out of here. Like, no. I don't want to see your smug-faced John Winchester.
Let him have it. I appreciate for Dean that he got that moment of his dad looking at him and being proud.
Yeah.
It's interesting, as Mary appeared in Home and didn't really say anything, John here also can't speak to them. Yeah, I appreciate for Dean that he got that moment of John saying that they were both alive and they killed the demon and him being proud of him. I like that that's Dean's last memory of John, of him being proud of him. I think for him, he needed it. I think it's the same for Sam. The kind of nod they give each other is really interesting. It's a very emotional moment, and I know I'm supposed to feel like, oh, this is really nice, but you're right. It's like, but they wouldn't be here, and like Dean wouldn't be in this situation with the deal that he's just made if you had done a better job. So like, stop being so smug about it.
Yeah. I'm assuming that the vessel that Yellow Eyes had is dead.
Yeah, he is.
He could have essentially killed another person, and like John would have been like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you for being a murderer." Like,
I mean, I guess here it's unavoidable because of how the cult works, but yeah, you're right with that as well. But I feel like John's almost being redeemed here, and I think this kind of happens again in the 300th episode. But again, we'll talk about that when we get there. But you know, as he kind of steps away from Dean, I think he puts his hand on his shoulder. I feel and kind of cries that single man tear. I guess Jeffrey Dean Morgan had that down before Jensen Ackles ever did. Maybe he taught him. I'm at coaching sessions of like, no, you just got to get the one tear. But I mean, as he kind of steps away, the same effect happens to him as happened to oh God, what's her name? The ghost in Roadkill. You know, kind of infused with golden light, and he looks very happy. So the assumption is that John has moved on to a better place. I know they haven't said the words heaven yet, but it's very much implied. So we're kind of watching John go to heaven here. I guess because of his unfinished business is complete. Obviously, he dragged himself out of hell. This is why a lot of people are like mad about it, about John being in heaven. And I can understand that because of the bad job he did raising Sam and Dean.
Though that is kind of interesting that he is able to go to heaven, because later on in the lore is that if your soul has gone to hell, you cannot get into heaven.
Hey, that's right, actually. Annabelle, you are correct. How is John in heaven?
How is John in heaven?
I guess Jack fixed everything, which that means guys, Kevin is in heaven. Just saying. Okay. That this solves it, right? Annabelle, you're right. No, this is a big plot hole. This is a big plot hole. Wait.
The only person we've seen the exception come is for Bobby, and that was because an angel did it.
They just completely screwed Kevin over, didn't they? Like, because actually, right, it's established in lore that it definitely has happened. Oh, Kevin, you got a raw deal, mate. Like, that's really bad. That's really bad. Yep. All right, let's go with it then. John didn't go to heaven. You're right. He didn't go. No, he can't. It's established in supernatural canon that he can't have gone. An angel didn't take him. So, what happened to John Winchester? What do you think?
He went straight back to hell.
You think he went back to hell? He just looked like had that moment of like inner peace, and it was like, bye guys, back to the pit.
I see. It's interesting. You thought it reminded you of Roadkill. It didn't. It reminded me of, because he kind of flashes out. He doesn't glow out. So in my mind, he had a ghost death.
Yeah.
Like because they burned his body. They salted and burned his body. So they don't know what happens to ghosts. Like, the reason why they know what happened to a spirit is because he made a deal, so he had to go to hell. But the people who don't choose, like people who stay and then get, become vengeful spirits, and then they come along and salt and burn their bones, they just disappear. So I think he just disappeared. I don't know where. Maybe he wouldn't have gone to the empty because you can't.
I mean, maybe. I mean, let's canon this out. He could have gone to the empty because, okay, this is big spoilers, guys, but fine. Like Billy said to Sam and Dean that she was going to throw them in the empty. So you can send human souls there, I guess. I think you're right. Let's go with this. So yeah, from this point then, for the rest until like 1520, John is gone. He doesn't exist anywhere in the supernatural universe. I guess you're right. He either doesn't exist at all, or he's in the empty.
Yeah. I was going to say, but doesn't Mary talk about being with John in heaven? But your heaven is your own, so John could be there.
Yeah, it's all very interesting. Okay, let's see how this plays out. We may change our mind on this, but I love that they established that in canon and we're using it against them. Because what they did to Kevin was not right, so I fully intend to use this against them.
Yes. Yep. Because, no, he didn't go to heaven. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, man. So, okay, John's gone. Bye, John. We don't see you again for a really, really, really long time. So everyone's been crying. It's all been very emotional. And Sam and Dean kind of stand over Yellow Eye's vessel. And Dean says, great line.
Check that off the to-do list.
You did it.
I didn't do it alone.
Of course he makes a joke. You've just accomplished your life's mission and you make a joke about it.
I love the downplaying of great achievements. It's awesome. It's my favourite thing to do. Sam says, we did it. Dean says, we didn't do it. Oh, I didn't do it alone. Referencing John.
Do you think that really... You think you really climbed out of hell?
The door was open. If anyone's stubborn enough to do it.
And they kind of reiterate what we've been saying, that they don't know where he's gone. I think Dean seems quite happy because he doesn't think John's gone to hell. Something else has happened to him. I guess from previous experience, salting a burning ghost, it did look a little different. And it's interesting, they kind of talk here, what do we do next? Because Sam's saying, we've done it. This was our life's purpose, and we've been prepping for this our whole lives. We've done it, and now, I don't know what to say. What do we do next? Dean does know what to say because he always knows what to say in a situation, and says, I do. And he leans down to Yellow Eyes and says,
That was for her mom. You son of a bitch.
Classic Dean.
I love it. It's great. I mean, he's talking to a vessel, not the demon here, because the demon's long gone, and they did just kill a dude. But fine, you take your moment, Dean. It was a long journey.
Yeah, and then Big Brain Sam has to go and ruin it all.
He does, yeah.
He has to go ruin their moment. They've just left a body, and as they're walking towards the Impala, Sam brings up the fact that Jake looked like he'd seen a ghost when he'd seen Sam. Dean's like, oh, you're wrong. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Dean says, I've told you everything. And Sam's like, no, not everything. But guess what, Sam? You're not telling him everything either, so kettle meet pot.
Very true, very true.
So Dean makes a really good point of saying,
we just killed the demon. Can we celebrate for a minute?
Sam doesn't relent. He says, did I die? Just have a moment. Come on.
Give Dean 24 hours to be happy. Come on, please.
Yeah. He keeps pressuring him. Because of Dean's inability to give him a straight answer, Sam asks, how long did you get?
Yeah.
And Dean stops fighting it and just says 1 year.
You shouldn't have done that. How could you do that?
Don't get mad at me. Don't you do that. I had to. I had to look out for you. That's my job.
Now, what do you think my job is?
What?
You saved my life. Over and over. I mean, you sacrifice everything for me. Don't you think I do the same for you? You're my big brother. There's nothing I wouldn't do for you.
For once, somebody tells Dean that he is worthy.
Yeah. I love him for this.
Yes, absolutely. He says, what do you think my job is? And the fact that Dean is kind of shocked and says, what?
Yeah.
This is what you should have been saying from the beginning, Sam. This is what you should have been saying from the beginning.
I do understand Sam here, because some of these things you shouldn't have to say. They should just be known between you. And I think Sam thought this was known to Dean. I do think that. I honestly think Sam thought that Dean knew he would sacrifice as much as Dean would for him. But because Dean's self-worth and self-esteem is so low, he doesn't think that he's worth that to Sam. Honestly, Dean thinks that if he was out of his life, Sam would just go back to college and live like an apple pie life and would give up hunting. And that's actually not true. It's not true. I know it ends up being true, but it's not true. Like, if Dean was out of Sam's life, he would, like, go on hunting and helping people.
Yeah. And what's so crazy is it is kind of interesting that you say that, because we've also said, had situations been reversed, we don't think Sam would have done the same thing Dean would have done. So at every turn, like this, where Sam could have said something, he hasn't.
That's true, actually.
Until now. And so he continues saying, "You're my big brother, there's nothing I wouldn't do for you, and I don't care what it takes, I'm going to get you out of this. Guess I gotta save your ass for a change."
Yeah. It's great. I'm so glad that Sam said this to him, because, okay, yes, I said a minute ago, like, some of these things between you in a relationship, like in a sibling relationship like this, your family, like, it goes unsaid that you would do anything for them and look out for them, but sometimes you need to say it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you need to tell people you love them in your life. You need to tell them that they're worthy and they're worth your respect and they're worth everything they get. Because sometimes people don't know it. They need to hear it, I think.
Exactly. But, I mean, so at least at this point, it isn't a life and death situation. It's like after the life and death situation.
That's true. This is actually, you're right, kind of the one sort of time, I say that it will happen again, it's kind of one time that Dean's managing to hear from somebody that he's kind of loved and, like, you know, someone wants to look after him without, oh no, it is a life and death situation though, Annabelle, because they now know that Dean's going to die in a year. The truth still holds, I feel.
No, because it's not an instant. Like, it's not going to happen in the next scene or in that scene.
Okay, fine.
That they have, I mean, Sam doesn't take advantage of the fact that he's, you know, boosting Dean up at this point in this next season, because he turns into a selfish butthole again. With this ending, I'm like, okay, I was remembering the end of season 2 correctly, so I'm happy about that. So yeah, I think it's a different situation because he now has a year, rather than in other cases where it's like, I love you, I'm dead.
Yeah, I mean, you have to say it like that because it's true. Okay, yeah. This is a nice moment. This is a nice moment for Dean. I think it's nice for Sam to finally get to protect his brother for a change and be the one saying it. I like it. I appreciate it. Dean obviously appreciates it. His face, he's shocked that this is happening for him, but he's like, okay, and does accept it. And I think it fuels him kind of a little bit to be like, do you think Sam...
Life is worth living.
Yeah, I think so. And do you think Sam being on his side gives him hope that he can get out of this?
Yes. Yeah, I do think so.
Ellen appears and she says, well, this is bad news. There's like an army of demons out there now. And Bobby kind of says, like, this is just the beginning. And it's like very tropey, like, you know, setting up for the next season.
Well, okay, here's another. He says it again. He says, hope to hell, you boys are ready. Like, okay, we get it.
It's hell. There's demons. We get it, Bobby. We get it. It's funny, but we get it. And then they do, like, shot for shot, the end of kind of pilot.
We got work to do.
I love the fact, okay, right. You have this revered gun, right? The Colt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He just casually throws it in the back. Like, nothing to do. Just like, oh, yeah, just the most powerful weapon that was ever built. I'm just gonna throw it in here. Like, I won't hold on to it for any... I mean, I think that was the last bullet, right?
Yeah.
So it is somewhat worthless at this point. Because I guess they don't have the mold to make bullets for it.
No.
I do, what I love about this is, like, the kind of sneaky smirk that Dean has. Like, I do think he has a new zest for life after hearing this, and, like, knowing that he has a purpose again, and that he gets to go hunt some more demons.
Yeah.
And that was the end of the episode. that was it. We got through season 2, guys.
Hey.
Our little purgatory pals. Woo. What an episode. What a ride. What a season.
I feel like season finales, this show kind of sets you up for an emotional roller coaster. It starts at the beginning with Kansas, and then just like that kind of sort of triggers your emotional response, because we're conditioned at this point, like dogs trained on a clicker, and and then it kind of carries you through. I think this is a really strong end of a season. I really like it. I think I'm glad they did it in part 1 and part 2, because part 1 is kind of Sam's side of the finale, and then part 2 is kind of Dean's side of the finale. So what questions are we left with at the end of season 2? Going into season 3, there's a few unanswered questions that are going to get addressed, I guess. I think the main 2 are, what's going to happen with Dean's demon deal? Obviously, that's the main one. The second question is, has Sam gone dark side?
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to see how they address those. I don't think there's anything else that is left over from season 2 or season 1 that hasn't been answered, actually. I think they did a good job wrapping a lot of this storyline up.
Yeah, I think you're right.
There's a few things like why the demon army, what's the apocalypse, like, plotline stuff. Mm-hmm. But, so there maybe is a few more. But, I think the kind of psychic kids got wrapped up quite neatly. We kind of figured out what Yellow Eyes' plan was for Sam. It was to unlock the crypt and lead that army, but they kind of scuppered that. Obviously, we don't know what the army's for. I guess we don't know what's happened to Meg. It's quite interesting. Also, there's some B-plot stuff, so they're still on the run from the FBI. Gordon's still in prison, I guess, but I think, is he going to get out at some point? What's going to happen to Ellen and Bobby? There's a few different things. Actually, I'm like, there's a few things that are going to go on in season 3.
Yeah, and I mean, but some of these things, like Ellen and Bobby, Joe, Gordon, all of those people, like, they're okay to have open-endedness right now, because they have the potential to be fully formed characters.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, some of this, like the plot with the psychic children, there's just too many of them and too much of, like, they have the potential to get too strong and just be like, okay, we're just going to kill them off in a weird way. Like,
yeah, I think it's implied they're all dead now, essentially. I mean, let's not talk about the other generations, because I'm sure we'll bring that up in the wrap-up. But, I think, they have pretty much ended that plot line now, and I don't think it really gets brought up again later on. I mean, so overall, yes, strong season finale. I loved it. It was emotional. It hurt so much. As a finale should hurt, I think. It should be painful in some ways, because you're always ready to say goodbye to characters, I guess. But
but have you been conditioned that way because of shows like Buffy and this goddamn show?
I mean, that's true. I mean, I recently watched the end of Lucifer, like the final episodes, and I was happy with how that turned out. There were some things that I wasn't completely 100% with, but I could see why they made the decisions and was cool with it, and they kind of tied up everyone's storylines nicely and everything, and I think it was good in the end. So yeah, it shows how it can be done, I guess.
Yeah. I'm halfway through season 5, so I've still got a little bit to go. I'm catching
I won't
up.
tell you anything. It's good. It was fine.
I also think of Bones too. They killed off a whole bunch of people in that.
That's so funny that you say that. And when you get to season 6 of Lucifer, you'll figure out why.
Okay. So, all right. So the next episode that we're going to do is a wrap up of season 2, and then continue on. We'll continue on to season 3. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it that we've been doing this for 2 seasons already, and I'm still having so much fun with it.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think we have some fun things for you in between now and season 3, so I hope you enjoy them, and we'll be welcome for feedback. Thanks again, all the way through this season, to our artist, the Pixel Agora on Tumblr. Please follow them and check out their art, and commission them if you want some cool stuff.
And you can find us on all platforms of social media, Tumblr, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of that. Just search for us under Escaping Purgatory. And also, there's a new feature on Spotify that allows you to answer some questions that we'll pose, or a question that we'll pose to you guys. But just look out for that, and we'd love to hear from you there too. We're still trying to figure out that formula, so if you don't see a response, I'm not sure if we can respond. if you want to have a conversation with us, definitely, chat to us on Facebook, Instagram, or Tumblr.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure. I think we can pin posts on that, but I think it's a pretty new feature, so it may evolve. Okay. Thanks, guys. There's a rest stop in sight. We can see it in the distance. But before we get there, we have to pass through this really large devil's trap. And there's a whole bunch of demons in the way. So hopefully next week we'll get there and we'll be closer to finding our way out. Bye.
Bye.